Hello, my friends. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. Once again, here we are, and we are here to do our weekly 1 o'clock in the morning Bad Batch episode review. And I've got to say, I'm actually really excited to talk about this episode this week. I think that this week's episode had some much needed pizzazz. As you guys know from my previous reviews and just overall, I haven't been losing patience with the show. I've just been very adamant that I feel like we're at a point now where the plot needed to be kind of picked up a little bit. You know, I by no means think the show has been boring or unenjoyable. I've enjoyed every single episode up until now. However, this was the 6th episode here. With a season that we know has confirmed to have 16 episodes total, we're 1/3 of the way through the season here, and so I have reached a point where I was beginning to feel like, okay, I'm gonna start to lose patience if we don't start, you know, picking up the pace or at least contributing to or advancing the overarching plot a little bit more and having less of these side missions that have a starting and stopping and then clean slate for the next episode formula, and just having a little bit more of an in-depth or at least some sort of expansion upon the overarching plot line. And this week's episode, it had the pizzazz that I've been craving. Just a little more something to light a little spark, get a little more movement going here with the plots, adding in, building on, adding a little bit more depth to the storyline, creating a little bit more mystery. I feel like this episode was really successful in helping to get me reinvigorated, helping to reinstate my interest and give us something more to theorize about. And I feel like this episode finally added a few more things that we can question and toss theories around about, and overall just helped to bulk up the plot a little bit more. Let's jump in and talk about it. I like that this episode took place on Corellia. I lit up when I heard that, and I low-key was like, are we gonna see like an infant or like toddler Han Solo? Is he a child at this point, I guess? But yeah, I just kind of wish we would have seen a little bit more of Corellia though. Like I'm a little upset that the entire episode took place on the interior of this decommissioning plant, but it was still really interesting to go to a familiar planet. I think the visuals on this planet and in the interior again was so amazing. The visuals were incredible this episode, and the vibes, the tone, the decommissioning the droid facility. First things first, I didn't even think we were going to be seeing any droids at all in this show, so that was very cool. But the interior of this droid decommissioning facility was so reminiscent of Attack of the Clones, like the droid factory, like the droid power plant, where Anakin and Padme are kind of like stuck on these conveyor belts of like droid pieces and parts being put together versus taken apart. I really loved that. That was very cool. This entire episode, I was just recalling that scene. A lot of Attack of the Clones, I feel like, or at least reminiscent vibes or hints or kind of parallels to Attack of the Clones have been coming up in this show, and I really like it. So that was one aspect that I really enjoyed about this episode. I've gotta say, if you had given me even like 50 guesses of potential cameos for this show, I would not have guessed that the Martez sisters were gonna make a comeback at all in this series. And I don't even know why that didn't even cross my mind, considering Disney, you know, likes to create new characters. At least Disney Star Wars likes to introduce new characters and then kind of have them, you know, reoccurring or reappearing in other projects or whatnot. So I can't believe I didn't see that coming, but I was genuinely shocked to see when Rafa pulled her helmet off. But as much as I never would have guessed that those two cameos were coming, I kind of liked it. It was good to see a familiar face, let alone one that I think nobody would have predicted. And also I feel like it makes their appearance in the Clone Wars final season a little more meaningful. And I say that as someone who wasn't necessarily annoyed by them, oh god. I say that as someone who wasn't necessarily annoyed by the Martez sisters as new characters, you know, to begin with, as people, as characters, whatever. I was not annoyed by them. I was just more so annoyed that we were seeing an entire arc dedicated to these new characters when it was the final season of, you know, the Clone Wars, and I would have rather been seeing what Anakin and Obi-Wan were up to or something. I know that it was an important arc for Ahsoka. However, I just didn't feel that in the final season of this incredible show, I wanted to be watching 4 episodes of the Martez sisters, who at the time I felt like didn't have a higher, purpose in the plot, really. They didn't feel that pivotal to the Clone Wars as a series. However, I feel like their appearance here in this show, this cameo here, makes their, appearance in the Clone Wars make a lot more sense, or just at least feel a little bit more meaningful and like they have a role in a bigger picture of the story. And I have a feeling they will probably reappear here now that we have this mysterious figure that they are working for, which if you watched our watch party on ADHD's channel, I will link it below. We do watch parties there every Thursday evening at midnight if you want to check those out. But if you watched our watch party, you'll see that we pretty much concluded, thanks to Zach's pretty great guess, that this figure is probably Bail Organa. Maybe. It's definitely a good person. And my initial thought was a Jedi for some reason, because of that Jedi-ish familiar kind of tune that played when they called them up, they FaceTimed them. So yes, that is our guess for who we believe the Martez sisters are working for. And I really liked that aspect of this episode, that the episode itself, this little mini arc, had a conclusion and a resolution. However, it left a little bit of a climax. It left something for us to get excited about. It left something for us to keep questioning throughout the week, to give us something to discuss as we wait for the next episode, where maybe we will learn about this person's identity. It at least gave us something to theorize about as a fan base for the next 7 days. As I had mentioned in my literally last review that I posted 2 days ago, I don't mind if there's cliffhangers in the show, and this wasn't necessarily much of a cliffhanger, but this was just a kind of like, why can't you just show us who this is type of moment. But it was exciting, and it planted a little seed, and it gives us something to look forward to, which again, I feel like the show needed. It needed a little spark of something to get us theorizing again, or at least get us excited and looking forward to future episodes, whether it be a cliffhanger or the introduction of a surprise new mysterious character or whatnot. So I was really thrilled about that. I really loved Omega in this episode. I think seeing her learning to use the bow is a very, very important detail, because again, I think the first episode, where she picks up the blaster and she's a perfect shot right away, I was expecting that her with the bow, she was gonna have the same type of skill set, right off the bat, no training or practice at all. But I kind of like seeing that she's, not struggling, but she's having a difficult time, learning to use it, training with it, a new weapon. And I feel like it perhaps insinuates, her beginner's luck in episode 1, the premiere, where she's able to perfectly wield a blaster for the first time in her young years of life. So I like seeing this part of her development. She has this new weapon now. She feels like it's, her own thing. She wants to know how to use it, and it's fun to see her, learning that process. This episode, it just hit me for some reason. Like, it really solidified in me, like, yes, I love Omega, and I don't ever want anything bad to happen to her. I don't know why. I think it was maybe just seeing her, like, stuck on this conveyor belt. Kind of similar to, like, Anakin and Padme again in Attack of the Clones. Anakin had his arm, like, stuck under that, like, droid piece of metal, whereas Padme was literally about to have, like, flames poured on her in this melting pot. Omega was in a similar situation. She's got her leg trapped underneath this pile of droids, and she's heading towards a literal inferno lava melting thingy. So maybe it was in that moment where I was really just like, I never want anything bad to happen to her. I love her so much, and she's becoming one of my favorite characters. I feel like I just cherish her, and I again loved seeing, Hunter kind of having this very protective moment over her and like rushing to go and get her. So I am, of course, again preparing myself for heartbreak, because I feel like there's a reason that they are getting us so in love with Omega, and this huge sense of father, daughter, at least guardian, protector, relationship between her and Hunter. So I'm bracing my emotions for the worst here. And of course, the other big inclusion of this episode, Wrecker's head and his chip finally going off. I've got to say, I really didn't want to believe it when people were first theorizing about it, and I thought maybe he just has a concussion and he hit his head. When he hit his head, again, I was about to lose it. That was going to be a breaking point for me if they didn't continue on, or at least solidify that this, yes, confirming this is like his chip going off, that this isn't just a coincidental funny gimmick that's going to be, you know, a character point for him or something. I legitimately would have lost it if they'd had him so evidently hit his head again and not be, you know, coincidental or anything like that. If they had just done that again for the millionth time but not elaborated on it, I would have lost it. So I'm glad they at least finally confirmed that our suspicions unfortunately are true, and that this recurring issue has something to do with his inhibitor chip. But oh my gosh, please no, please don't let anything bad happen to him, especially because he's the most powerful one of the group in terms of physical brute strength. Here's the thing, the chip is against the Jedi. It's Order 66, which is to eliminate any Jedi. So if he doesn't see any Jedi, nothing bad is going to happen, technically correct. However, why would they have his chip go off if they weren't going to perhaps encounter some Jedi later on in the future, maybe, that he would be triggered by and tempted to kill? And so maybe he will like realize, like, he clearly was out for the count for a minute and was having these thoughts and saying good soldiers follow orders, hearing Crosshair's voice in his head. So perhaps maybe he is gonna flag down Tech and be like, yo, hey, this happened to me, scan my brain and take this out, because they know that that's what the Empire used to manipulate Crosshair. So I would hope maybe he would have the sense to do that and go to Tech, knowing that Tech was building or constructing that little thing in order to take their chips out, or at least figure out where they were. But yes, I'm assuming that's not going to be the case. I'm assuming that this is pointing to a not great road. I would just like to pick up on this as a hint that perhaps, you know, there is a member of the group now whose Order 66 switch has pretty much been flipped. So that to me indicates that there is a chance that we might see a Jedi of some sort crossing paths with the Bad Batch, and Wrecker just taking them out, or immediately going to try to kill them, and the group having to restrain him. But again, of all other members of the group to have their chip go off, I would argue that he is probably the most difficult one to try to handle because of his sheer brute strength. So I don't know, but I just don't want anything bad to happen to him either. He's so sweet and precious and innocent. That is definitely a punch to the heart, and I have just a bad feeling that bad things are gonna just start happening to everyone, and that we're all gonna be looking at this show like, these first few episodes were kind of slow, and then it's just gonna turn around and everything's gonna go to and we're just gonna be like, oh my god, why didn't we savor the good times, these little side cute solo missions, while we had them before everything went down the drain? But yeah, in terms of other, you know, predictions going forward, I feel like this pivotal moment here that Hunter had with Rafa, as she's kind of giving him the rundown of, you know, the way the galaxy looks right now, and, you know, the reality of everyone has to kind of choose a side, I feel like that could be an important moment in helping him at least to decide that, you know, they don't necessarily want to just be on the run completing these bounty missions for, you know, someone they don't even know who they're working for, who might not necessarily even be a good guy. He knows that they as a team have more to offer than that, and that he might want to use their abilities for good, so that going forward, you know, the group will realize what they really want to do is rebel. But yeah, I think that's all that I've got for this week. I'm really tired, so I'm gonna split. Of course, let me know what your guys' thoughts were for this week's episode. I'm excited that we got some very much needed, just little sparks to help pick up and move the plot forward, and I'm hoping that going forward, you know, the next few episodes continue to do the same, and that everything just picks up from here. So, as always, let me know your thoughts down below. I love to hear your guys' opinions. Do you think this week's episode did a good job of picking up the pace a little bit? As always, thank you guys so much for watching. May the Force be with you guys always, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.